What's up, ADOS and our allies? You know who it is, Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the Friends of ADOS TV channel, bringing you those ADOS hot topics and making the case for reparations, making the case for Democratic down ballot. And today, let's talk about it, family. The pink elephant in the room, the infighting, the agents of chaos within the ADOS movement. You see, it's not just the agents on the outside causing confusion and disruption. We got a lot of loyalists that are willing to undermine and implode this movement over ego. Yes, I'm going in today, family. York 2700, thank you so much for joining live. Oh yeah, let's talk about it. Since y'all want to have this out on the Twitter, I've got some things to say about it because I've been one of the parties that were drugged back in October. Yeah, around there, about trying to put together a super PAC to get our candidates elected on the local, state, and national levels. Oh, I've been through the fire, so I think I can speak on this. I've been through the fire, family, down here in SoCal when it decided we wanted to go a different direction and all the assets were stolen. I've been there, family. ADOS SoCal is still here, rising from the ashes like the phoenix we are. Yes, so we're going to talk about that because we can't be all that we were intended to be with all this mayhem going on in the movement. It is time for us to decide, where do we stand? Are we here to continue trying to start a revolution within a non-revolutionary party? Or are we here to bring reparations to the ADOS, the lineage, the people? What are you in it for, family? It's time for everybody to get real with themselves and decide why they are in this movement. And if your ego is involved, you need to check it at the door. You absolutely do, because it's crushing this movement. It's crushing the spirit of the people who are spending their time, energy, resources to make this movement go viral all throughout the country. We are the laborers. We are the movement. We're the ones that are putting up our money to hold chapter meetings. We're the ones that are at the city hearings, making the dials, doing all of the heavy lifting, okay? And getting the work accomplished. What's up, William Dickens? Thank you for joining the live. So for all of this mayhem and all of this dragging, okay, for folks to have material to weaponize against us when these things can be handled in-house. Oh yeah, I'm hotter than fish grease, Janetta Lynn. What I have seen to try to decimate and tie the hands of everybody trying to get this work done is unconscionable and it's deplorable. For folks who claim to have all of this education and all of this political acumen to disparage people that don't have education. If only 16% of us have education, how do you think it feels to the laborers in the vineyard who study to get their GED in prison and decide to do this work, who are well-read, even if they don't have the white man's degree? How do you think that feels when they tune in and are constantly being told you're not educated enough? When they're the ones that are moving weight for this movement, restless hours, poring over documents, doing everything in their power to change the scope of things within their own city-states. For you to offend them and act like this is an education thing over ADOS thing. We're going to talk about it. ADOS Colorado, thank you for being in the building. So, I'm not willing to destroy this movement over ego. No, I'm not. And it has been all-out war in the Twitter spaces, akin to what it was with my super PAC. Yes, family. Chat, where you coming in here from? In the chat, and tell me if you have any experiences that you'd like to get off your chest. This is not about dragging our leaders. This is a moment to educate you about what you're doing the best and the brightest in this movement that is giving everything they've got to make this movement thrive, because we are the movement. We were told not to start these chapters. Yes, everything we tried to do to advance this movement, we were told not to do it, and not in a nice way. Nobody knows how to pick up a telephone after being invited to different briefings. They want to start shows and drag you live and drag you through the Twitter and sit back and watch other people drag you. Shout out to Travis Johnson, who was trying to put together a Selma march, dragged. Shout out to the PAC, Friends of Adolph's PAC. It's changing the name because it's just been dragged. Nobody picks up a phone and have a conversation. That's a problem, family. And we need to stop having these fights in the Twitter spaces. It is very upsetting for someone like Tamara Johnson-Shealy to put everything into ADOS. Long before we even had the inaugural conference, I met her. Back around Juneteenth, a little afterwards, when I was a founding member of ADOS SoCal. So this has been going on for a while, and it's finally blown up. And now people have all the material they need to continue to drag this movement and try to tear it down. So I'm going to go through some of my talking points that I need to get off my chest. And I'm free to do that because guess what? I don't need anybody's permission to move. I don't need anybody's permission to move, and I've not stopped. I may have had the wind knocked out of me because I didn't have the type of leadership that interceded or even knew enough about me and my contribution to go over in the Twitter spaces to quiet that noise. I'm sure Be the Power feels that way. Tamara Johnson-Shealy feels that way. Travis Johnson feels that way. Okay, I am sure of it. So I've got some things I need to address to get off my chest since it's already out in the open. I need you to understand the difference between those of us who are in the vineyard doing this work and those of us who are agents of chaos within this movement. You need to understand it so that you can make an informed decision if you want to get involved. They call it growing pains, but to me, it's a lack of respect, plain and simple. So let's go from the top. It's not in any order. Once again, I want to stress for the leadership to constantly bring up education as if that is required to be grassroots. That's belittling the very people who are fighting in this movement the hardest. These are some of the loudest voices. These are some of the people out of the South who have endured much because of institutional systemic racism. If only 16% of us have degrees, imagine the majority of the people that are in this movement whom we're fighting for that don't have degrees, while you sit up here and disparage them for not having degrees whenever you try to frame something. You know who I'm talking to. I don't need to call your name. But it's downright rude and disrespectful to decimate our people who we already know don't have the level of education that we've been privileged to obtain. The white man's miseducation. It's got nothing to do with how hard they're working in the vineyard, how much money they're pouring into this movement to make their chapters run, how many hours they spend in Zooms and different work groups to make things flow. So that needs to stop immediately. California Reparations took the nation's help. It wasn't just ADOS Cali that got us that study down here, and we're not there yet. And we still are forming work groups. These are the people in the vineyard that are doing the work. Okay, let me help you understand. That is what I call the movement. Now, I'm all for political education. We need that too. And we've got fabulous shows. Breaking Brown, we've got Be the Power, we've got 13% Friends of ADOS TV to help enlighten people to bring more folks into this movement. But if it constantly belittling them over their degrees or lack thereof, how many people do you think we're going to attract or detract to this movement? So when you're talking movement, when each of us formed these chapters, we understood that it's going to take all of us to help any of us get elected locally, on the state level, and on the national level. Okay, dragging Tamara Johnson-Shealy, who is running for U.S. Senate, is not just a Georgia, Atlanta chapter thing. It's a national thing. When we get her in, we've got an authentic reparationist in the Congress, which is what the PAC was intending to do, to get our people elected on every level and to raise money on every level to fill in ADOS for ADOS. Those of us who are full-chested about reparations and a Black agenda. That is what the nation needs to do. So when folks want to sit and tell me, leave it to the Atlanta chapter, no, because the Atlanta chapter clearly doesn't know what it's doing to even be vetting any other candidate without reparations at the top of their platform in the way of Tamara Johnson-Shealy. So in the same way it took for us to get that study for California reparations, it's going to take the same heave-ho in terms of donations and dials to get Tamara Johnson-Shealy elected. And you guys want to keep going on polls and talk about how she can't win. To my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Cori Bush won with fewer dollars than Tamara Johnson-Shealy. Tamara is out here going door to door in her RV in rural Georgia, where she could risk getting lynched. I don't speak that on her at all. By herself, door to door, collecting votes. Because, why? The ADOS movement decided not to get behind her full-chested. Because we're waiting on Atlanta? Are you for real? No. Because folks got egos and personalities all intertwined into why they won't help this sister get to the finish line. All in the while pretending to be caping for the reparations. It's an oxymoron to think that an establishment candidate like Warnock can get us reparations. You sound like Bernie Sanders. You cannot start a revolution within a non-revolutionary party. They just went in there after he won 3 states and co-opted the whole thing and gave us the author of the 94 crime bill, segregationist Jim Crow Joe Biden, who says in lieu of dismantling private prisons and decimating qualified immunity, don't shoot to kill them, just shoot them in the leg or something. That's his solution to reform for the race soldiers, as he talks about giving them $30 million more. And we're trying to defund the police in an era of George Floyd 846 to the neck. So why are we here? If half the movement is on establishment and the other half is for reparations and a Black agenda in exchange for our vote. How can you talk Democratic down ballot and be looking at establishment candidates? That to me is as silly as Project Takeover with the NAACP. Why are we trying to force our position on a party that's clearly funded by white money? They'll never be for what we're for. Why not use all of our energy to get this movement going? It looks real suspect when we don't put all of our energy into getting ADOS going. As you guys call us grifters, because we were called grifters, the super PAC. We are governed by the federal, the FEC, the Federal Elections Commission, having to turn in reports quarterly. But they were allowed to call us grifters. Nobody interceded on our behalf. Nobody picked up a phone. Nobody joined a meeting. So what part of the leadership is enjoying imploding the movement? That begs the question. So when it comes to Tamara Johnson-Shealy getting elected, it's all hands on deck. She is a reparationist. And I'll get to the difference between the lineage, the hashtag movement, and slogans, since that too seems to be a problem within this movement. Tearing down comrades, I spoke to that, who are investing their time, their energy, their money to make this movement grow. Tirelessly. Spending all the energy we've got to make this movement go. And all you can do is drag us. Not come and assist, not have us on the show, not make a call to explain. You just drag the very people who are putting everything they've got in them into this movement to grow it. Because it started with us. The hashtag was there. Every time we asked Yvette, what is the solution? She told us we were the solution. And we're out here trying to be it, and our hands are being tied at every turn. It is grossly unfair to continue to tear down the comrades that are putting everything in this movement to make it grow. Who wants to join this when they can see it played out on Twitter this way? Because nobody has a respect for the ones in the vineyard that are doing this work to pick up a phone and get some understanding. Constantly complaining we have no money, but I see folks putting up tons of money for your shows. Now, I'm not disparaging you that. You are free to make your money for your show. You've earned it. You're fire when it comes to putting your shows together. I don't disparage you, none of that. I'd be the first to tell you I'm a guppy. I got involved when I was working Bernie Sanders' campaign. And I started watching Yvette when she was with Boyce. Fell in love with her acumen and her wit and all of that. Still love it. But to keep continuously saying we have no money, we have no wealth. But many of those that are throwing up 50s and 100s in both you and Tone show, myself included, I've been on recurring payments with Yvette. I've donated to Tone. We may be wealthless, we're not incomeless. And so to say we don't have money for a PAC or we don't have money to support Tamara Johnson-Shealy is a bold-faced lie. And just one mention from our leadership would turn it all around. To have Tamara on the show even, that costs you nothing to bring her on there. I brought her on my show. Be the Power has had her on their show. I think even the 13% has had her on their show. But you've got the biggest following. That's how we reach more people. Ja'Cory Arthur called in and he won. Imagine if our leaders would get behind our candidates and encourage people to donate and support to our candidates, you know, to the degree that we're being dragged into Twitter, how much farther along we'd be for Tamara Johnson-Shealy. But you guys have got to understand these polls are showing you what they want you to see. It is no reflection of where Tamara is. So why aren't we having that conversation? With all the education and political astuteness in this movement, why aren't we talking about that? Why aren't we talking about the fact that if you write an ADOS in a restricted state or in a state where you can't write in, that we're suppressing our own vote? Where's those shows? That's the shows I need to see. We absolutely have money. We have no wealth, but we have money. Donate to TamaraForGeorgia.com and make dials for that sister. She needs all hands on deck. We are 28 days from election. And she is a real contender. You can't see it because they're not going to report that. They want you to think that Warnock and Loeffler are winning neck and neck, tie to tie because of their money and the fact that they are establishment candidates. She is Republican, I do believe, and Warnock is a Democrat, a minister. Church and state, wants to do both while in office. How effective can you be as a senator if you're still trying to run a mega church? Doesn't make sense to me why we're looking any further than Tamara Johnson-Shealy. So we do have money. Give all you can. Because aggregated dollars gets her elected. I may not have $10,000 to lay on the sister, but I can set up recurring payments as I have. So can you. And if all of our dollars came together, we get that sister, the very first of her kind, into that Congress to speak full-chested about reparations and a Black agenda. And we can do it. She would be the litmus test of getting it done on every level, henceforth. And then we've got 2 more years to unseat the current lame Congress who's not full-chested. AOC is full-chested about reparations for Mexicans. They got a whole show they're about to do about that. While we're trying to start a revolution with an establishment candidate like Warnock, let's get for real. That's not going to happen. All you got to do is see Bernie to know that that's a dead-end street. Let's talk about being told that her movement is all lives matter. Can you tell me any candidate that is speaking, number one, about reparations and a Black agenda at the top of their platform? Number two, whose platform only has the lens for ADOS in its eyeline? Which of these candidates does not have something for everyone on their platform as you accuse her of being an all lives matter candidate? You don't make sense. Are only Black folks in Georgia voting for Tamara Johnson-Shealy? Then it's wise of her to appeal to the immigrants and the white folks. She needs their votes. Once again, we've got all this education, we've got all this political acumen, but we want to call her platform All Lives Matter when she's the only one. Find me another that's got reparations at the top of her agenda. Find it for me. I'll wait. Can somebody put it in the chat? Yeah, let's make up our mind. What is this movement about? Because if it's about establishment and trying to take over NAACP and trying to take over National Urban League, I'm not your girl. I was not a co-founder of ADOS SoCal in order to do establishment politics. I came to break the back of the establishment. That's what me and my comrades are here to do. Not do this status quo that y'all on. That's not our monkey, not our circus. So let's have some transparency here. What are you here for? Because I might be in the wrong movement. Let's talk about the difference between ADOS, the lineage, the hashtag movement, and the slogan, I am a reparationist. Do I need to say any more on that? We've got ADOS, the lineage, we've got hashtag the movement, and we've got Be the Power that came up with a brilliant slogan called I am a reparationist. How is that in any way conflicting with the hashtag movement or being ADOS, the lineage? Can somebody share with me in the chat? I'd like to see that in the chat. Thank you, Be the Power. You help give me energy to give voice to this frustration that I've been feeling for a year now. I appreciate you, brothers. Okay? I appreciate you so much you don't even know. Okay? To me, you are making a mountain from a molehill. We got so many slogans going out here. We got so many new hashtags created because that's the genius you've got in this movement. Sheer genius and creatives. Self-educated and college degree professionals alike. Doing all the heavy lifting in this movement. Don Page, shout out to you for being a founder of the Black AMDOS Caucus. Nobody wants to talk or give credit, but they can drag. And they can co-opt. And how dare anybody disrespect Dr. William Sandy Darity? How dare you? What gives you the right to come for Dr. Darity, whose data and acumen, who've been doing it for 12 years? Not only is he a scholar who helped put together the color of wealth, not only is he a scholar, okay, from here to equality, that's going to be a book read. He is an elder. He is an elder and deserves the utmost of respect. When you come for him, when you come for Tamara Johnson-Shealy, when you come for Dawn Page, when you come for Travis Johnson, when you come for Angela Nirvana, you come for the movement. When you come for Be the Power. How in the world, for those of us who are pouring money into these shows to educate the masses to grow the movement, be even remotely deemed as grifters? Now, I want you to understand how it's looking to the people on the outside. You're making yourselves appear to be the grifters. You're making yourselves appear to be jealous. You're giving FBA and B1 all the material they need to drag us, akin to how they've been dragged. It keeps this going when you choose to have these fights in the Twitter instead of picking up a phone and respecting the very people who are on the ground, grassroots, getting this done. They are the unsung sheroes. They're not asking to have their faces out front. They put big mouths like me on the camera because I love the camera. I love the people. I was born to talk. I'm using my gifts. I'm using my gifts despite how you sat back and created shows about the pack and tore me down in the Twitter spaces. I'm still here because I don't need nobody's permission to move. So yeah, you're showing yourself to appear to be a grifter. That's how it's looking to the people who are hitting me up in my inbox, back and forth with all this nonsense going on in the Twitter spaces. I just had to come out because it messes with my mental. I'm trying to not let anyone or anything disrupt the calm peace of my soul, but it's been tough these last few days. And I may lose some of you. I really don't care if you're an Yvette and Tone loyalist. I'm not the one for you. I'm not a loyalist. I'm an advocate and activist for ADOS to my death. And like I heard on Be the Power, big fish and guppies alike can get this smoke. I don't need fans. I don't need to be popular. I don't care if there's only 2 of you watching. I don't do it for the 2 of you. I do it for the new ones. Okay? And the ADOS who want to hear my voice. Which I don't understand what the problem is with having many voices do this lifting. What is wrong with Be the Power? 13% friends of ADOS TV helping to do all the heavy lifting. Why is that problematic? Why should we get torn down and ripped to shreds and have a leaderless movement not come into Twitter and say this is not necessary? These people are making this thing do what it do. That's what we would love to see from our leaders. There's a hashtag and there's the movement. We are the movement. And I'm going to keep doing this show, even if it's just me on here screaming and ringing the alarm. I'm not here for all of that. I'm here to use my gifts to help ADOS get repaired in the trillions over multi-generations. I've got a daughter I've got to leave this country to. She is owed a debt, as are your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And I will be on my square to my last breath. There won't be no confusion when you on this show how I ride. Okay, so I want to explain to y'all. You got folks in this movement who are very interested in being loyalist. Nobody takes the batteries out of their backs. They should know better, but they want position. And they think if they drag you and brown nose Yvette and Tone, that's going to give them a special disposition until it's their head on the chopping block, until they're the ones being dragged, until they're the ones that are being told how to move, when to walk, when to talk, how to think, how to breathe, how to see, how to hear. When that comes for them, it'll be a whole nother Oprah. So do know the difference between those of us who are working in the vineyard and don't give a damn, and those who are loyalists with batteries in their back who nobody steps in the way of. Oh yeah, we got that in that movement. We got that in this movement. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. They'll tell you down. They'll try to keep you out of doing work. They try to tie your hands. They disparage you. They talk against you. Be careful those who talk against you. They're the guiltiest of being loyalist in this party, of being ego-driven instead of the people-driven. You watch out when folks come talking about me or Be the Power or Tamara or Dawn or Travis. Yeah, you be careful of those who sit up here and want to paint you as being jealous and paint you as being grifter because they got batteries in their back that the leaders won't take out. Why do you think that is? Isn't that a convenient way to throw rocks and hide your hands? I don't need permission to move. Like I said prior, it's never about the chapter. We are a grassroots movement. Each of us pick up a brick for the other. DMV can call me. Triangle can call me. Chicago can call me. Any of you. And tell me, jump on this call. Write this email. Tweet this out. Do this, do the third. It ain't a chapter thing. It's an ADOS thing. We help each other win. The same way we can do for Tamara JOHNSON-SHEALEY, we got 28 days. You can donate and dial TamaraforGeorgia.com. If somebody could please Write that in the chat. I'd be forever grateful. I am actually trying to get through this show because I gotta, if they don't block me, I gotta organize this call down here for Cali at 6 o'clock, and I still gotta read to y'all. Okay. Once again, it's in vain to give us instructions for Project Takeover when we got ADOS to build. You got white money in BLM. You got white money in NAACP. You got white money in the National Urban League. You got white money in establishment candidates. We are trying to burn America to the ground. It's not working for ADOS. And you let these Mickey Fickies get this trifecta on either side. That means the top and the Congress, we are done. Right now, Biden has a plan to replace us with the immigrants. Kamala, who says she ain't doing nothing specifically for us and we're on the bottom in the country our ancestors built with their lives, has H-1B visas lined up for her Brahmin Indian caste to come over here for tech jobs. And Biden, who wants to open up these borders to 11 million more Latinx to give them a pathway to citizenship before making us American. You got ADOS all the way mixed up. If you think we're even considering a war knock, Atlanta and none of the chapters are working independent of the collective movement. So somebody needs to share with me if we own establishment, are we reparationists? I need to know. Because I might need to go do my own thing if I can't get it done in here and got to fight every time somebody's trying to take us to the next level. Somebody needs to be honest and real transparent. Because war knock should not even be up for consideration. Be the Power did an extraordinary job unpacking that. I don't need to be revisiting it. I got about 29 minutes, or less, 28 minutes. We must strike out and do our own thing. The ADOS movement is got momentum. We got folks actually paying attention. And we can't be full of all this confusion and all this infighting with agents of chaos who want to kiss the ring. I don't need to kiss no rings to move. I didn't need Tone or Yvette's permission to form ADOS SoCal, to form Friends of ADOS TV, to form Friends of ADOS PAC, which the name is changing. Because of all of this, you know how hard it is to work when your own movement is fighting and the whole movement is imploding? Do you know how exhausting it is on the people right now because of what's happening over in Twitter, and now it's spilled over to Facebook? We got a candidate to get into that Congress, and folks are fighting over establishment versus reparationists. When we all thought we came together all over this country, many of you I've not even had the privilege of meeting, to be reparationists and to get this done. Which is it? Somebody's either lying and deceiving and undermining our efforts. That's what it's feeling like. Me speaking. I ain't speaking for nobody but me right now. Okay? Let's be clear. Angela Nirvana. We must do our own thing. If we all pull together right now, with 28 days left, hello to everybody in the chat. I'm on one right now. It is what it is. If we all pull together right now, we can get TAMARA JOHNSON-SHEALEY elected. We got 28 days. We need all hands on deck. If you have no money to give, please reach out to her at tamaraforgeorgia.com and get educated on dialing. She needs dialers. She needs dialers and she needs dollars. And I'm telling you, we can do this, family. Don't be deceived by the numbers. They don't have her numbers because they're not talking to who she talking to. You can trust and believe that. And none of them down there, all 21 of them, not a one, but TAMARA JOHNSON-SHEALEY has reparations on her platform. She is one of the most genuine, sincerest women I know who's lost much to do this for ADOS. So win or lose, Georgia, where you at? Where's Georgia? Y'all need to vote for this sister because she's got us in mind. And she must speak to the rest of the electorate. She can't just be single focused, and I don't even understand how that comes out of people's mouths who has all this political education. How in the world can you think that she is not supposed to appeal to the rest of the electorate and only have reparations on her platform? And then complain that she can't win. What's really going on? I'm giving y'all the side eye. Okay, let me take a drink. I feel better now. I said what I said. I may lose you, but the real ones that rock with me, they've been with me ever since I was dragged. So I love y'all black and strong. It is what it is. I don't give them. How about that? I'm not for everybody. I am not, and I don't try to be. I keep it a buck. I did my best to keep it nice. I mean, I know I'm hollering, but this is upsetting to my soul. To know this woman personally. To know all the people personally. Well, I've not met the others. I met Naeem at the inaugural conference. So it hurts me, even if I don't know you and I've not met you personally. When you come for anyone in ADOS, you're coming for me. When you talk against any of these fine, beautiful, talented vineyard workers, you're talking about me. It's personal. So tonight, for those of y'all that are ready for story time, we're talking about 2 more dead presidents. These chapters are short, but we must understand our past to understand ain't nothing changed this election cycle. This gives us the fortitude to show up and vote Green Party or blank top of the ticket, Democratic down ballot. Now, I know good and well that my Green Party is not going to win, but they've got reparations on the platform and a beautiful ADOS sister, Angela Walker, running for VP. She's a trucker and a single mom. So this is another problem I had when we had Marianne Williamson and Tom Steyer. Why did the ADOS movement pick up a phone and have a seat instead of disparage the ADOS agenda under Tom Steyer? Not give edits, but let's tear it to shreds. And mad at Marianne Williamson's number of 500 billion when she said at the inaugural conference and every place she spoke that it's up for negotiation. What are we really doing here? Let's talk about if this movement is on establishment or if we're on ADOS for reparations. Because to me, it's a problem when I'm trying to push these things and the leadership is not in alignment. The leadership won't push it because the number's wrong. I ain't saying she was agreeable to that number. I'm saying she was negotiable. As someone I know personally in my spiritual community, she can't come out with 17 trillion on the campaign trail. She can't do that. She knows. And we did not get behind and push to ensure that she got what she needed to be in future debates. What are you here for? Everybody has to search the sea of their soul to figure that out. Same with Tom Steyer. Don was begging for edits. Don was begging for sit downs. I think shout out to Dr. Darity. I think he had a sit down with Tom. We love you, Darity. We respect you. We honor you. We thank you for your contribution. If you're watching, I don't know. You don't really know my show or me that well, I don't think. But anywho, I just had to say that. So I read through Prejudential because folks ain't reading. So I read these couple of short chapters, right? I read these chapters because it deals with Black America and the Presidents by Margaret Kimberly. And I need you to understand this will give you the fortitude to break the back of the establishment. The goal is to let Trump win the top and to let the Democrats take the Congress because neither of them can get a trifecta. We're finished if they do. Biden has a plan that lifts every voice but ADOS. Let me help you understand. Go read it. I ain't got time for that. That's another show. Look through the archives. And I did a Trump show too. I unpacked that. He ain't got nothing in there but loans. He want to lend you your reparations. And he want to put more police in your community to execute you by government sanction. So there's nothing to see in either plan. So we've got to break the back of the establishment. The way to do that is to deliver green or blank. Some of you are voting Trump. Let me help you with something. We're not a monolith. Okay? We are suggesting to you, I'm suggesting to you not to suppress your own vote. I've not seen a show by Yvette or Tone yet to talk about these restricted states and to talk about these write-in states. No write-in, never write-in. If you put ADOS at the top of that ticket, you run the risk of suppressing your own vote. I don't recommend nobody mail their ballots unless you've got illnesses that could make you a magnet for COVID and you don't want to go early vote or drive-by vote. I'm going to leave that to your discretion. But you absolutely need to help us. If we deliver Republican top and a Democratic Congress, it locks it down. They can fight like they've been doing on these debates. Like, damn, I can't even accuse them of being children because children have a right to be silly and act out. But these two are acting out and they ain't offering you nothing. So I'm saying, if we deliver a trifecta on either side, it's over for ADOS as we know it. It's all in the data. That's not this show. Let me dig in and get y'all prayed over and get y'all out, okay? I thank y'all for being on the live. I thank you for your patience. I thank you. I love y'all black and strong. Okay, so today, we got William McKinley family, 1897 to 1901. William McKinley seemed to have all the credentials needed to enjoy support from Black Americans. He was a Republican born into an abolitionist family in Ohio. Just so you guys can know, if you're not up on your history, we were once Republicans. And then LBJ wrote in civil rights, and we became Democrats. And so there was a changing of the guard, but not a changing of the white supremacy, okay? A changing of the guard, but not a changing of white supremacist oppressors, which is why you can have a Republican and Democratic clothing like the author of the 94 crime bill, segregationist Jim Crow, Joe Biden. He is just as much of a white supremacist as is Trump. And nobody can tell me outside of Trump being mean and racist how he's done anything more egregious than imprison 1 million Black men for the new slavery within the confines of the private prisons that the federal government pays the state to warehouse us. And put out Kamala's fires out here like she told the governor when he said, could you please let the nonviolent offenders free because our jails are overcrowded? She said, no, I need them to put out white fires in the hills. Y'all seeing everything burning up down here. She needs our brothers who are on lockdown, the nonviolent offenders included, to go into the hills and put out white fires for $2 a day. So there's no difference. As a young man, he fought for the Union in the Civil War. He came of age as a politician who spoke in defense of Black voting rights and promised to protect them. However, he was still a white American dependent upon other white men for success in politics. When he had the chance to avoid an imperial war against Spain, he did not. When he could have protected the lives of Black people in his own country, he didn't do that either. By the end of the 19th century, the surviving indigenous people had been conquered and almost all of their lands had been stolen. African Americans were freed from chattel slavery only to live a day-to-day existence in fear of mob violence. Manifest destiny was still the order of the day, as was the Monroe Doctrine and its claim that only the United States would control North America. There were numerous efforts to expand slavery by invading and annexing Cuba as a state. The Spanish wanted to keep what was left of their once vast empire and had no intention of giving it or any other colonies away. The Cuban people wanted independence as did Puerto Ricans. In the Pacific, Filipinos in the Majos of Guahan, called Guam by the Spanish, also wanted theirs. These struggles for independence created an opportunity for the United States to steal these territories from Spain and control them for itself. Anti-Spanish propaganda was used to gain popular support for an American empire and for denying people the self-determination they had long sought. At the end of the Spanish-American War, Cuba was independent of Spain, but dependent on the United States. Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines all became American territories. See, they have nothing that they haven't killed for and stolen. So now everybody wants to piggyback on the reparations, you see, and call it reparations. Everybody wants in on the act since ADOS. In a 4-month-long war, McKinley had sent the last of the European powers away from America's area of influence in the Western Hemisphere and expanded America's imperial reach all the way to Asia. It was a watershed year for Black Americans too, and not in a good way. There was debate about the war itself and the question of whether Blacks should support it. In a forerunner of debates in decades to come, some believed that Black participation in the fighting would lead to respect and freedom from discrimination and oppression. That was the opinion expressed in the Indianapolis Freeman newspaper. Quote, "It pays to be a little thoughtful. The strife against the Philippines is no race war. It is quite time for the Negroes to quit claiming kindred with every Black face from Hannibal down." Hello, Pan-Africanism. Hannibal was no Negro, nor was Aguinaldo, the Filipino nationalist leader. We are to share in the glories or defeats of our country's wars. That is patriotism, pure and simple, close quote. In an age when the horrible doctrine of separate but equal was the law of the land, other voices counseled opposition. Ida B. Wells Barnett didn't hold back. Now, folks have been calling me Ida B. Wells. Look at that. Here she is, all up in my pages. I feel you, ancestor. Quote, "Negro should oppose expansion until the government was able to protect the Negro at home." Now, she sound like I'm cut from her cloth, okay? Get ADOS right. We can't be, everybody got to get off the tit, okay? Everybody get off the tit. It's ADOS time. And I make no apologies for being for ADOS exclusively. Because it's putting everybody else on the tit and making sure everybody else is okay while we're tethered to the bottom in the fight of our lives to prevent extinction. Blacks fought, but at the end of the day, they were no better off than if they had not. In November 1898, one of the last bastions of Reconstruction was violently overthrown in Wilmington, North Carolina. The biracial city council made up of Democrats and Republicans was forced out of office by a mob of armed whites. An estimated 60 Black people were killed and more than 2,000 were forced to flee for their lives. Pleas for help from the Republican McKinley administration were unheeded. There was no investigation, no mention of the atrocity from the man who had fought in the war that ended slavery and had received Black votes when he ran for the presidency in 1896. The Democrats were the party of open and proud white supremacy, as they still are today. And Republicans were considered the only reasonable option in the face of lynch law terrorism. This pattern of promising support that never materialized would recur into the 21st century. But y'all want to wait until we get establishment candidates into office to ask for, to demand reparations in the Black agenda. I hear people foolishly telling me in my feed to wait until Biden is in office. You mean the way we waited for Obama? Y'all still waiting for Obama to do something for ADOS. All he's done is leaned in on how they ain't doing nothing for us, as he's interfered in this election. The Democrats were the party of open and proud white supremacy. Okay, let me jump down, sorry. The effort to pass an anti-lynching bill floundered and was equally unsuccessful for the next 5 decades. Presidents may have sought Black votes, but the support of Black voters never mattered very much when action was needed to protect their lives. Doesn't that sound akin to them suggesting Joe Biden? Where was he Was it down there where George Floyd was? I can't remember. He was at a church talking about don't shoot to kill them, just shoot to maim them. But you're supposed to run out and vote for him. Yeah, hold your breath. I will never, ever vote Biden-Harris. I'm voting Green Party top, dim down to protect over 42% of us who rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism since COVID. Let me remind you, we are $200 liquid in LA. To African immigrants, $60,000 liquid. To white folks, $110,000 liquid. To Asian Indians, Kamala's people, $245,000 liquid. You got me in the movement mixed all the way up. If you think we are going to continue this two-step lesser two evil shuffle to our own peril, it ain't going down. We're here to blow it up and to turn the mother out. Moving on. How much time I got? Oh, 10 minutes. Oh, Lord. On September 6, 1901, President McKinley was in Buffalo, New York at the Pan American Exposition World's Fair. Leon Zolzgaz, whatever, joined the receiving line as if to greet him, but instead he fired 2 gunshots at McKinley, who died from his wounds 8 days later. The first man to reach Zolzgaz was not one of the Secret Service agents tasked with protecting the president. Instead, James Benjamin Parker, a black man originally from Georgia, prevented the assassin from firing a third shot and was the first to wrestle him to the ground. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. Therapy is in the Black agenda. Parker was working at the World's Fair as a waiter and had taken the opportunity to meet the president. However, his very presence may have changed McKinley's fate. According to one story, at least one Secret Service agent was busy looking at the black man instead of observing the crowd as he should have been doing. Parker seized the shooter first and knocked the gun from his hand. And they still don't give 2 issues about you. Parker was circumspect about his role in the events of that day, but also wanted black people to be credited with his heroics. Quote, I am sorry I did not see him 4 seconds before. I don't say that I would have thrown myself before the bullets. Well, thank God for that. But I do say that the life of the head of this country is worth more than that of an ordinary citizen, and I should have caught the bullets in my body rather than the president should get them. Sometimes I just cannot, family. I just have to take a breath. I can't tell you what I would have done, and I don't like to have it understood that I want to talk of the matter. That's all any man can do, close quote. In the same modest statement, Parker added these words, I am a Negro, and I'm glad that the Ethiopian race has whatever credit comes with what I did. If I did anything, the colored people should get the credit, close quote. Black people did exult in Parker's heroism and gave him the highest praise. While McKinley lay wounded but still alive, Booker T. Washington rejoiced that a black man had saved the president from death. Not only black people, but the white press too wrote about the tawny lion of the exposition. One of the McKinley's Secret Service agents admitted, quote, that colored man was quicker than we. He nearly killed the man, quote, close quote. Parker's heroics were quickly forgotten. After McKinley died and Zolzgaz was put on trial, the same Secret Service agent who credited Parker suddenly denied his existence. Quote, I never saw no colored man in the whole fracas. Having failed in their duty, McKinley's bodyguards were not going to credit a black man who acted when they did not. Parker was not called to testify at the trial and was remembered mainly by other black people who were angry that he was so quickly dismissed and discredited. He made a living as a speaker for mostly black audiences until he succumbed to alcoholism and died in a psychiatric hospital. His unclaimed body was dissected by medical students. Another book on my list, Medical Apartheid, write it down. I have to get the book and craft the dates. The next book up is Darity's From Here to Equality. Get that book. That's coming up November 6. So I want us to have a lively discussion. Please read it cover to cover, because I'm not going to be reading from the book. Okay, I'm going to just be giving my notes of what I read, and I'd like an exchange. Okay, pick that book up. It's going to be, I think, November 6th. I can't post in Facebook until a week before the event, but I will post it in here. Okay, after the show. So now we're moving on to the early 20th century. I got 5 minutes. We got Theodore Roosevelt. So let me tell you what was going on to give you some framework. Well, he was 1901 to 1909. I'll do that next time, okay? Let me just get this out of the way. I got to pray you guys out and get out of here. I got a meeting. In 1901, Vice President Theodore Roosevelt rose to the presidency upon the assassination of President McKinley. Despite the desperate attachment of Black Americans to the Republican Party, Roosevelt was quite openly racist. Before he became president, Roosevelt wrote that Black people were, quote, altogether inferior to the whites, close quote, and opined that, quote, a perfectly stupid race can never rise to a very high plane. The Negro, for instance, has been kept down as much by lack of intellectual development as by anything else, close quote. I feel you, ancestors. I do. I do. Roosevelt's views were shared by most of white America. He also shared, this is how we got to George Floyd 846, Breonna Taylor. Do you understand me? We have to cut down the tall trees. Where are my soldiers at? This is how we're here. Roosevelt's views were shared by most of white America. He also shared a contradictory belief that some Black people might rise above their inherent inferiority and prove themselves useful to some extent. At that time, the most politically useful was Booker T. Washington. The blessing of the, quote, Wizard of Tuskegee, close quote, could lead to a noteworthy job, funding for an organization, or entry into Washington's prodigious list of contacts. In his famous Atlanta Exposition speech of 1895, Washington had made the case for accommodation. He had asked Blacks to cease agitating for citizenship rights and an end to segregation. As recompense, powerful white people were kind to Washington and the people he designated as being acceptable. Theodore Roosevelt would surely find some use for such an egregiously opportunistic Black man who even claimed to see something positive in the increased number of reports of lynching. Quote, it seems to indicate a going backward rather than a going forward. It really indicates progress. There can be no progress without friction, close quote. Yet a seemingly innocuous event set off a firestorm for both men. On October 16, 1901, Booker T. Washington dined with the president and his family. A reporter noted Washington's name in a guest book and a presidential secretary confirmed, quote, Booker T. Washington of Tuskegee, Alabama, dined with the president last evening, close quote. Reaction was swift and put anti-Black race hatred on full public view. The Richmond Times raged that Roosevelt advocated, quote, that Negroes shall mingle freely with whites in the social circle, that white women may receive attentions from Negro men, close quote. Mississippi Senator James K. Vardaman called Roosevelt a, quote, coon-flavored misogynist, my apologies, South Carolina Senator Ben Tillman went straight to the point. Quote, the action of President Roosevelt in entertaining that nigger will necessitate our killing 1,000 niggers in the South before they will learn their place again, close quote. Roosevelt was not predisposed to being seen as doing anything favorable to Black people after reactions like these. As for Washington, Black people defended him because of the new enemies he had made, not because of anything he had done for them. Opponents like William Monroe Trotter didn't stop their criticism of Washington, however. Trotter admonished him for hypocritically advising Blacks not to seek social interaction with whites, yet accept an opportunity to dine with the most powerful white man in the country. Shocked by the criticism, Roosevelt and his staff began a desperate damage control effort. Alternately, they claimed that Washington came for a luncheon, not a dinner, confirmed the invitation, and tried to say that Washington was never there at all. Then they claimed that neither Mrs. Roosevelt nor the daughters attended the dinner. Neither man was prepared for the level of vitriol following the meal. Roosevelt later said that reaction to his invitation made him melancholy and admitted, I never thought much about it at the time. It seemed to me so natural and so proper. As someone who acted within the socially acceptable bounds of racism, Roosevelt was initially unprepared for the lynch mob lovers, but quickly regained his political acumen. By the time Theodore Roosevelt entered office, Republicans had long since abandoned their most loyal constituency. But in the face of legalized segregation and lynch law, the Republicans were still seen as Black people's best chance. Black Northerners were still able to exercise the franchise, and Roosevelt knew it. That is why he waited until after Election Day in 1906 to announce that he was committing a grave injustice against a group of Black soldiers. The 25th Infantry Regiment of Buffalo Soldiers, a name for the Black regiments of the time, arrived at Fort Brown near Brownsville, Texas on July 28, 1906. From the moment they appeared, white residents kept up a campaign of vicious harassments and threats. When a white man was shot to death, members of the regiment were forced to flee a mob of people who accused them of committing the murder. Tensions were so high that the regimental commander ordered an early curfew and confined the troops to their barracks. A second shooting was blamed on the already quarantined soldiers despite confirmation of their presence in the fort. Without an official charge or trial, 167 of the troops were dishonorably discharged, deprived of pensions, and prevented from gaining federal employment or reinstatement to the Army. This decision was not announced until November 5th, 1906, after congressional elections had taken place and leaders such as W.E.B. Du Bois had urged Black voters to stay in the Republican column. I'm almost done, family. Dr. Charles Morris, pastor of the New York's Abyssinian Church, spoke for the most of Black America when he described the chain of events. Quote, the president's decree was signed the day after the election. He shot us when our gun was empty. But we shall have 2 years to work, and our slogan shall be a Republican Congress to protect our people in the South and a Democratic president to resent the insult heaped upon us. Is that not what the ADOS movement is asking you to do with us? Trump, make way for Trump at the top of the ticket in the Democratic Congress. It's the same strategy they were invoking here. It requires a reread. The president's decree was signed the day after the election. He shot us when our gun was empty. But we shall have 2 years to work, and our slogan shall be a Republican Congress, which is now Democrat, to protect our people in the South, to protect the 42% or more of ADOS since COVID who rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism, and a Democratic president to resent the insult heaped upon us, and a Republican president to resent the insult heaped upon us. It's time to cut down the tall trees. Where my soldiers at? Thus shall we answer Theodore Roosevelt, once enshrined in our love as our Moses, now enshrouded in our scorn as our Judas. Hello, author of the 94 crime bill, segregationist Jim Crow Joe Biden. Hello, Skamala the chameleon, Cali's top cop. Our Judases, who are trying to give away the farm and weaponizing immigration against the ADOS. It's time to break the back of the establishment and burn it to the ground. There will be casualties. We just won't be the only ones. You let either of these parties get a trifecta, it's a wrap for ADOS. Where my soldiers at? Congressional investigations and an Army reappraisal concluded that the 167 discharges were done properly. There was one outspoken white defender of the soldiers, Republican Senator Joseph Foraker of Ohio. Roosevelt was apoplectic at the opposition and ignored every request for reconsideration of his decision. But y'all want Atlanta, ADOS, y'all want to sit down with establishment Warnock and beg him for the reparations that TAMARA JOHNSON-SHEALEY so freely gives at the top of her platform. Because she speaks to the rest of her electorate. Y'all want to sit down and start a revolution within the establishment candidate Warnock backed by Democratic dollars. Y'all got us mixed up if you don't think this is an all chapter thing. Y'all can't tell me not one candidate speaking loud and proud for ADOS and reparations and black agenda but that TJS. But it ain't my business. Y'all got the wrong one today, tomorrow, and the day after that. Quote, some of these men were bloody butchers. They ought to be hung. It is my business and the business of nobody else. It is not the business of Congress. If they pass a revolution to reinstate these men, I will veto it. If they pass it over my veto, I will pay no attention to it. I welcome impeachment. But Senator Foraker kept fighting on their behalf. He demanded a Senate investigation of Roosevelt's decision, and in the process made at least one strange bedfellow. South Carolina Senator Ben Tillman, the same man who advised lynching 1,000 people to make up for the Washington dinner invitation, sided with Foraker, if only to embarrass Roosevelt. It's never about us. It's always about their politics, family. They weaponize ADOS to their political advantage. They're not offering you anything because you're continuing to do the lesser of two evil two-step shuffle to your own people's peril. So they have got your number. They never had to offer you nothing. So they continue to offer you nothing. But the reparationist side to ADOS movement, since we're undecided here, is here to break the back of it. I'm sounding the alarm every show. Roosevelt's inoculation of black people with the virus of social equality made the president more responsible than the soldiers for this trouble. Foraker took on Roosevelt publicly, At the 1907 Gridiron Club dinner, he insulted Roosevelt to his face over the Brownsville decision. At a time when senators were elected by state legislatures and not by popular vote, Foraker risked and indeed lost his seat in the 1908 election. This is the last page, family. I'm going to pray y'all out. I got to get on the call. I'm late. Oh, well, it is what it is. They probably won't even let me in. Whatever. I don't need permission to move. Remember my mantra. Remember your mantra. You don't need permission to move. Okay? Stung by criticism of his handling of the Brownsville case and resurrecting his own biases, Roosevelt dispensed with any doubt that he believed in the most prevalent rationale for hatred of black men. In his 1906 congressional address, he had stated that rape of white women by black men was a principal cause of lynch mob violence. It is noteworthy not only that Roosevelt had proved his racism with this statement, but also that Booker T. Washington still would not express any opposition to the man who threw him under the proverbial bus, did a great injustice to black soldiers, and reinforced reasons used to target black men for race violence. Washington never bit the hand that he hoped might feed him. Hello, Jim Clyburn. Quote, of course, you must bear in mind that he has for his object the saying of something that will help to make life and property for the Negro in the South safer. And in order to do this, he has, in a measure, placed himself in touch with the Southern people. I am now simply presenting his side of the case, close quote. Washington made clear that he had no intention of jeopardizing his relationship with Roosevelt and acknowledged that the loyalty would prove to be problematic. Quote, the enemy will, as usual, try to blame me for all of this. Like we blamed Obama, right? The one that created 1 million white millionaires while ADOS lost 43% of their wealth, right? Their homes. And right now, during this pandemic or plandemic, we stand to lose the rest of that. We're dying disproportionately from COVID. We have the most disproportionate number of cases. We're redlining to environmentally racist communities and tenement housing. And then you wonder why there's black on black crimes and murders. Y'all want to blame the people when they ain't got nothing to live for. Miseducated, preschool to prison pipeline, no jobs, suppressed wages when you got a job. While you giving all these immigrants set-asides under affirmative action was due to make us whole, that white women benefit first, immigrants benefit second, LGBTQXYZ benefit third. Nothing left for the ADOS. No jobs, no businesses, no homes. But you blame ADOS for murdering each other. You blame them for slinging the very drugs that you now turn a profit on in the cannabis shops that are in our communities that you don't allow us access to own. While you make a grip in the ankle monitoring system. No home ownership. But y'all want to continue this lesser two evil two-step shuffle to your peril. Not the ADOS movement, the reparationists. I am a reparationist. You hear me? I'm ADOS, I'm the movement. Two years later, the enemy will, as usual, try to blame me for all of this. They can talk. I cannot without being disloyal to our friend, who I mean to stand by throughout his administration. Clyburn, where you at? How your district doing? How's the hookworm doing? How's the lead water doing? But you gonna stand by Biden, right? The fuckery. Oh my goodness. 2 years later, he had not changed his mind. The bulk of the Negro people are more and more inclined to reach the decision that even though the president did go against their wishes in dismissing the soldiers at Brownsville, he has favored them in 9 cases out of 10. It is not the part of common sense to cherish ill will against one who has helped us in so many ways as the president has. Ain't that what they saying about Biden? About Kamala? about Daniel the Coon in Kentucky. They're just doing their jobs. They're just doing their jobs. Oppressing ADOS, executing ADOS, imprisoning ADOS. It's just a job. It is not a part of the common sense to cherish ill will against one who has helped us in so many ways as the president has. Theodore Roosevelt would not be the last president who received high praise despite expressing and practicing blatant and anti-Black racism. On Tuesday night, more dead presidents, William Howard Taft and Woodrow Wilson. With that said, family, it's time to pray over you. You know what we must do. We must lean in on Democratic down ballot, Green Party, top of the ticket, blank, top of the ticket, anyone but Biden and Skamala. It is time for us to do as the Blacks did in the yesteryears and break the back of the establishment. I don't know that they succeeded. We'll continue to read and find out. But if we are DEFCON 4, we are at George Floyd 846. Vote like you know this and spread the word. Thank you for watching, everyone. I don't even have time. I don't really have time to go through and thank each and every one of you that took time out of your day to hear me express myself. I'm passionate. I'm dramatic. That's the way God wired me. I love us Black and strong. I don't apologize for making us a priority. Everybody can get the smoke. Big fish to the guppies. Thank you be the power for that. I feel liberated. I won't be dealing in this anymore. Let it do what it do. Whomever it needs to reach, whoever you need to tell, it is well with my soul. And with that said, family, let me remind you of the greatness that is within you in this prayer that gives me peace, that the light of God surrounds you, ADOS. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you, and the presence of God watches over you. Wherever ADOS and its allies are, God truly is, because guess what, family? You are the face of God. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until Tuesday night, family, you go out here in these streets. You act like you know who you are. Who you are doesn't require permission to move for ADOS. Continue to work and put this in your rearview mirror, because that's what I'm doing. It is finished. I've said my piece. I feel better. I hope you feel better too. I hope you feel appreciated. If no one's told you thank you, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for loving ADOS Black and strong. Until Tuesday night, you make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your evening and work, couple of days until we meet again. I love you, Black. I love you strong. Peace, family.